welcome back to PA Chalk Up. I'm your host Manny, and today we have Caroline. How are we doing?
Doing great, thank you.
If you let us know who you are, what you do, and how you got to where you are. As a strength coach, we deal a lot with Excel's, spreadsheets, and building out the best program that we can for our athletes. Although, when you have these large amount of spreadsheets and Excels and printables and packs that you need to hand out to your athletes, it can get a little bit overwhelming, especially with large amount of files. Mine's personally has crashed, deleted, and that to me is a big burden. That's why since starting my own business, I've went with TeamBuilder. TeamBuilder is an all-in-one programming software that has truly changed and leveled up the way I coach and the way I program for my athletes. With TeamBuilder, you can create customizable workouts, track your athletes' progress in real time, and even generate performance reports with just a few clicks. Athletes can also fill out their own workout data by using either the tablet or their smartphones in the weight room, which, most importantly, eliminates the paperwork that we all hate. This also gives your athletes accountability for their program and their progress as they are immersed within it. If you are interested in using TeamBuilder, head over to teambuilder.com and sign up using code PAChalkup. That's PACHALKUP to start your 30-day free trial.
My name is Caroline, Caroline Palmer. My athletes call me Coach CP. I'm from Bellefontaine, Ohio, in a really small town. Right now, I am independent, private sector. I work with teams, individuals, ranging from like 9 years old to 20s. I do remote coaching as well. And I've got to where I am. Um, Really just a really unconventional start. So I was a self-employed business owner for about 8 years. And then I completely switched gears from the beauty industry to strength and conditioning. So here I am now.
Let us know what the difference is between like private sector and sort of contracted, like you mentioned.
I am employed by a hospital, and then anybody, any teams or schools who want team services, they would contract me out from the hospital. And then it would just depends on what kind of program your facility runs through, whether it's by sessions, by weeks. So that just depends on kind of the need.
I know that a lot of sort of industries have to go through the insurance side of things. Is that something that you touch on as well?
No, it's what they call cash based. So it's
Okay.
by, so say a school nearby wants to contract me out, they either go through their own athletic boosters or they just fund
Mm.
money somehow by either fundraiser or individuals pay for it. So it just depends on where the school or the group gets their money.
You've also touched on something that I love talking about personally, and it's how young should kids start S&C?
Ah, yes. So I do get that question a lot. Um, the youngest I have had is probably like 8. And I'm really transparent with parents in general because you have, no offense to any parents, but you have parents out there who are very progressive and just want specialization now. And you see that
Mm.
on Instagram and education for don't specialize so fast. Let them be kids. So I'm like, really, you can start them anytime, but there's a caveat where the coach needs to be very transparent with the parent and say, we're not doing barbell work right now. We are literally going to start from the ground up. We want them to move efficiently. So that's my biggest thing with my younger kids is just move efficiently. You know, they're going to jump on their own, they're going to run on their own, so might as well make them really good at it. So then by the time they do hit, you know, actual strength and conditioning, they're not necessarily like elite because there are no elite children, but
Mhm.
they're just more educated.
I think that's one of the biggest things that we've kind of started speaking about on this podcast is the education versus the coaching. Like,
Hmm.
and kind of on what you've touched is like specialization is like this thing that kids have to do nowadays. But if
Hmm.
you just teach them to move and teach them right from wrong, and a lot of it is also nutrition. Like, what do they eat? That's perhaps not the best for them, and how they can feel properly. What's your take on like this specialization and multi sports uh, sort of overlook that there is a lot in this industry now?
Um, I don't necessarily. Coming from seeing even just high school kids who do one sport versus some kids who do multiple sports, um, I like the variety. I feel like as the kids grow up, they should experience different things. They should be able to play basketball. They should see if they like basketball. Um, but to be able to let kids be kids versus grooming them to
Mm,
be a professional athlete and have that professional athlete mindset at 6 years old. They might have those traits depending on, what the parents do and how they speak to them. Um, but really just allowing kids not to be robbed of their childhood. They might love it. They might love, you know, playing soccer year round, but allowing them to just be a kid and move in different ways. But I feel like, and it's crazy because we always bring up social media, but I feel like with social media, I mean, you have the baby Gronk, I think I seen. I don't even know who he is,
I think I know who
but
you're talking about. Yeah.
yeah, he's like what, 8, 12, maybe? I don't know. He's young, but they're already like offering him scholarships or deals and stuff. So I'm like, it is what it is, but as far as strength and conditioning goes, variety for me is key.
Mhm.
Yeah. Just
You also become
let
a
them be kids.
well-rounded athlete. Like
Mhm.
I grew up on multi sports, and like I can comfortably pick up whatever sport I want to do as a hobby, and
Yeah.
I'll be somewhat decent at it. Like I won't suck at it. Like I'll
Yeah.
be able to move in a way that I can get there. Like
Uh-huh. We'll get it done. It might
badminton
not
is
be
the
pretty,
yeah,
but
100%. Like badminton was the biggest shock for me. I was like, I didn't know A, how fast that shuttlecock moves, and B, I was able to get there. Like I've played tennis a couple times, and I was
tennis is
okay.
hard.
I could not serve to save my life. Like it's one of those underarm fellas, or like just a very soft
Uh-huh.
tap overwards, but I get it done.
Whoever thought that a tennis ball to the racket would be so hard?
One sport I do suck at though, it's football, as in like soccer.
Oh, I just learned to juggle and dribble.
Nice,
Dribbling's not very good, but juggling, I've had 12 touches. So,
nice.
it's
I
a
don't think I've
fascinating
tried
sport.
to. Being a multi-sport athlete is like you become so well-rounded at other sports that you can just like become comfortable in moving, and I think that's what S&C effectively is creating movement patterns that can prolong your ability to play in your sport.
Absolutely. Yeah. I have a soccer boy who is a sophomore and he's just soccer. He's literally
Mm,
soccer all year long. And it is, and I'm like, I'm like, I can see him in the major leagues, like Major League Soccer. I could see him playing pro. He's so good. And you know what? I, I tell him all the time, I said, to me, you're the best soccer player I've ever seen. I never played soccer. So
mhm,
it didn't really give much, but he's very good. But I stress to him, I'm like, enjoy an off season. And his dad's very open to me because I've had him since like 8th grade.
mm,
So I'm like, these little injuries that we are seeing, shin splints, hip flexor, that stuff. I'm like, there's a reason. It's because he is not given proper time to have an off season because he goes right into indoor. And
mhm.
so he
Well,
is
he does indoor too.
forced, huh?
He does indoor as well.
He does fall soccer indoor and then right into club, like club outside. So I'm like, he's forced to take time off. And I said, you wouldn't have forced time if you would just give some space.
Mm,
So, and I'm like, and if you have them now, can you imagine what it's going to be like when you're really trying to go somewhere with it? Because they say soccer is the hardest sport to get pro. I mean, it's a narrow window. So, yeah, seeing those overuse injuries and the flare ups, especially in those kids who do that year round, it is a mental game for them. It is
mm.
mentally like you can see them tank really, really quick just because they're like, this is all I have. And
Yeah,
for them
I
to
think
be taken back.
that's something that I'm sort of really struggling with currently is like how can you help kids that either have a year-round sport or have multiple sports that makes it a year-round
Hmm.
sort of season for them. Like how can you manage those loads? Like, and I completely agree with Steph Mark or Grub, sorry, is that when you're now talking about load management, a lot of people think dial it back. I You also need to ramp it up for like people who are bench players. Like those people need
Yes.
to increase their load management so that they're at least doing the same load as everyone
Hmm.
else. But like with athletes that are year round, specifically females as well, because like all the hormone imbalancements that they have throughout their months,
Yeah.
like how can you effectively manage their loads in a way that they aren't getting injured all the time, they aren't run down all the time, they're not getting ill or whatever else that may happen. It's like how can you create this space where their load is managed to a point that they can
Continue.
also be kids, yeah, and continue.
Yeah, yeah. So for me, in anything that I'm dealing with the athletes is communication. And when you communicate with the athletes, you can understand them, obviously. But then you figure out what kind of athlete you're working with. You have some that are either single or multi, and if you give them a little, like they're craving rest or they're
Mm,
craving an out, not an out just to be done with sport, but it's learning them in a point where if you say let's take this back, then when you're looking to ramp up, you'll lose them just because they are taking that rest, but then they want to completely stop. So like what you said, it's not necessarily like managing the load as in reducing and taking away, but it's being able to add that stimulus. I think Tony Holler and Les talk about microdosing,
mm-hmm,
um, especially in season. So for them to be almost an in season year round, it's a coaching eye, and just education on, how is my athlete stimulus and load leading up to this training session? Can we add in 2 sets of, not max, if we're talking about speed, max speed, and then take her back and work on other things. So, for me personally, like I never not do something. So as far as
mm-hmm,
like with my soccer boy, I know that he is constantly taking shots. So I know his hip flexor and his groin is constantly getting stimulus. But when it gets to a point where it's getting too much and it's becoming pain, it wants to divert into other ways. So we introduce different load stimuluses or different ways to activate and engage that groin or that hip flexor in a way that is not painful, but we are still getting stimulus to that. So I wish I could do BFR, but I can't do BFR here.
how much how many Copenhagen's does he have per session?
Oh, I love Copenhagen's. And he really he loves them and hates them at the same time. But Copenhagen's are great.
They are.
Especially if you get them to a space where like they can feel it, because he does, like, sometimes if we used to do them, he would have a little bit of pain because depending on where he's
Mm.
at in club and stuff. But I love Copenhagen's. Those are wonderful.
Oh, I love messing around with the progression and
Mhm.
regression of it so much.
Yeah.
Like it's weird how much a difference can be between like your arm by your side or your arm like
Over.
directly in front of you. Yeah.
Yes. And then you get the ones that
Like
are like putting their arm on the floor, and I'm like, "What are you doing?"
have you my like I hate when people like they're struggling with the Copenhagen, which is fine. Like it's a hard exercise. But
Yes.
then they like start pushing down on their hip.
Yes. And I'm like,
Yeah,
"Up,
and I'm just like,
up, up."
you're adding more load. Like you're making it
Yes.
harder.
Yeah. Comical. I love it.
In terms of like so him specifically, is do you look at his like different buckets and what he needs to fill for where he is in the season, or is it just like trying to see what stimulus you're needing to chase next?
With him, I do have some buckets, and it's really like I will go through phases with him, and it's not a typical like here's our 4 week block. If I do a 4 week block, it's really tailored to him because he might have like 4 games in a week. So it's really like I don't know if the S&C industry like the term auto regulation, but that's what I do. And I feel like I'm really good at it. At the drop of a
Can you
hat, I
explain
can
what that is?
auto regulation. Yeah. So um, to me, what I when I say like to parents when I say we auto regulate, it's based on what they have going on. So in that session, in that training session, I can at the drop of a hat. I had this semi plan because I don't really have a full plan set and say we're going to do this. I can change something when I need to. So I just shift it when I need to. So if he comes in and says I have a game tomorrow, that changes a little bit of things. So I'll just move around some pieces and my mindset when I train. So with him, my mindset with him, since I know he is a year-round athlete, I will always hit the portions that are not being directly. So let me just say, when we do a physiological needs analysis for a soccer player, physiological needs analysis, we know that they are shooting. We know that they have to do multiple different planes, moving those things. They don't go backwards very much. So we always say, and you hear like different soccer, either coaches, S&C coaches say their posterior chain doesn't necessarily get fully activated because they're not a DB, so they don't go backwards in sport. So they're really a linear, and they do go lateral, of course. Um, I love soccer players. It's made my brain really, 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 really work over time. Um, so with that, we will really make sure that we get his hamstrings, we get his erectors, we get his glutes. Um, and I think of the way I look at him is just holistically. I look at him as a full body. So, and other coaches might not think this way, but it's been working for me. So, um, what I know that he uses the most, I will give him stimulus. We will strengthen depending on what he's got going on that week. But I make sure that we always get a dose of strengthening hip flexors, groin, make sure the quads are good, always upper body. You can, they're not just going to be like a reverse Arnold
Triangle.
Schwarzenegger. so, um, but yeah, that's kind of how I see things. I just look at it as a big picture thing and then
Hmm.
see what are we using all the time and what is not being utilized enough. And then I hit
Yeah,
those.
I think as well. Like this holistic word has been abused quite a lot, and to
Mhm.
like it's kind of became this like negative thing. But like in the sports industry, like a holistic approach to something kind of indicates to me at least that the coach is kind of having a thorough look at everything that happens either in their sport, their day to day, and like we've kind of discussed, but like on the background of everything as well. Because like yes, they're athletes, yes, they're students, but they're
Mhm.
also humans, and they kind
Yes,
of need
we yeah.
to look after that and protect that a little bit as well.
Mhm.
So like
Absolutely.
when we're talking, and me and you both agree on this, is like because they are humans, like if they've got an off day and they're coming in to the gym and expected to like lift their max loads, and they've had a fight with their mom or dad or the girlfriend, whatever it is,
Yeah.
like they're not going to be able to give you that.
No.
So shouting at them and being like, the fuck is wrong with you, like let's push, you need to push today, is like probably the worst thing that you can do for them.
Yeah. And it's like we talk about knowing and understanding your athlete. That doesn't mean you have to have 20-minute conversations with them in between their lifts. It's just acknowledging who they are as a person, that they are a person.
Mm,
They're not just a number or a plaque on your wall. They are individuals, and our first purpose in being coaches is to coach. Is
mm,
you can't coach a wall, you coach humans. Um, it's not I give orders and you follow. It's a give and take, it's a back and forth. And yes, we do rule the room. But just being able to understand that as soon as they walk in, they carry something. whether it's a
Mm-hmm.
positive or a negative, they carry something. And as a coach, we should be able and be so attentive to our people. That's why I call them my people. I don't even call them my athletes. I call them my people. So we should be so attentive to our people that, if Ethan walks in the room and he's, got a little extra something in his step, you're like, okay, you're having a good day. Let's roll with that. Or if, um, Autumn comes in and she's, kind of like, hey, Autumn, how's it going? And she's like, good. Yeah, right then and there. So, and then from there, it's how to approach them. And we've talked about that before, like the next step in,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you understand, you analyze, okay, now what's the game plan?
Yeah, and I think like I agree with your way of programming because like again, I always have a program for what is happening that session. Now my deviations will be load. Like those
Mm
are easy things to control. If they're having
hmm.
a bad day, I'm like, cool, we're doing the same program, same thing that we've been doing, but your loads are going to change. This is a heavy week. You're not feeling up for it, so let's make this your light week, and next week we go super heavy. So like I completely agree with the fact that your programs can't be hell bent and die on the hill of the program. It's a sure way to now I'm probably going to butt hurt a lot of coaches, but it's like being macho all the time isn't as effective as like that give and take that you're going to get the most out of your athletes, and that could be seen as soft coaching, but as well like if they're still doing the program, they're still moving. Does the change of my heavy week really matter all that much?
Mm hmm.
Not really.
Right. And sometimes I'll like, especially if like if you have athletes that either want to try to play that they're a little tired, or is sometimes this works with those who really are. If I don't even change the loading scheme, but I obviously, if they're a different load for a different exercise, I'll flip and take out, say they're doing um, shoulder press with a barbell, then I'll be like shoulder press with dumbbells. And if
Hmm.
for some of them they're like, "Oh yeah, okay, fine." But then that load is still there. That stimulus is still there. We're just tweaking it. It's just a small
Mhm.
tweak.
I will also say you need to know your athlete and see
Yes.
if they're like genuinely upset or genuinely not capable of doing it that session, or if they're just like angry at something and they need to fucking release it. Like I've also you also need to like okay they're not feeling it, but if they actually push and move some heavy circles,
They'll walk out
they'll
better.
be fine.
We
Yeah.
call it iron therapy.
Yes.
I was like, "It's time for iron therapy," and they're like, "Yeah, it is." I'm like, "Okay, let's go."
That's what I mean though, like teaching your athletes these different ways of expressing themselves is the best
Mhm.
way that we can help them become humans.
Yes, absolutely. That's why what we do translates so much more out of the weight room than it does in the weight room, just in life.
100%. Like I've always had this opinion, but it really like solidified when I spoke to Ray Zingler and we both like came to this conclusion. Like we're not just helping athletes stay in their sport longer, become better athletes. We're actually building humans. Like
Mhm.
effective humans for society. Like if they've from 8, 9 years old been in the gym, know what it's like to have a heavy week, know what it's like to experience the dark side, like knowing
Yeah.
like experiencing all these different facets that come into the SSC world, they're going to be a little bit more resilient, a little bit more consistent than the average human there is.
Yes, absolutely. I have a swimmer, and he's very very meek, very quiet. When he started, his dad was like, he might not even talk this whole session. Like your training session, you might not get anything out of him. And by the end of it, he was laughing, and his dad's like, "What did you do?" And I'm like, "Well, you can't really be quiet around me." So, but now, training wise, we've got to a point where in our phase of training, because they're getting ready to start soon. We've kind of flipped it a little, and it's a new type of hard for him that we've done since the past year I've had him. And he he kind of doesn't like it. And it's I'm like, it's okay, you'll be fine, you can rest when you're finished. So
Swimmers
it's
are
just,
very unique as well.
yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Like they getting up at 5, 6 in the morning to like spend 2 hours an hour in the pool. Wild.
Yeah. Yeah. I said I wouldn't last because I'm like, this is
Just
awesome.
doggy paddling.
I said I'm really heavy. I don't float in the ocean. I don't float. I'm dense.
That's like the thing, and this is part of a bigger discussion that I've sort of been having is like women in swimming get really fucked over. And I
Oh,
know a
I can
coach
see that.
specifically who used to be like an elite swimmer, and it goes back to that load management thing because they're so like they spend so much time in the pool, and then they're having like coaching sessions by coaches that we've previously spoke about off the podcast, and it kind of got to this point where she wasn't having like a normal menstrual cycle for
Oh
like
yeah.
a whole year. And it's like, again, that load management plays so much into what we do as coaches and how their coaches, like sport coaches, handle that whole sort of topic as well.
Yeah, and nutrition. I mean, I've had so many nutrition talks. I have nutrition talks with all of my people, and it's obviously it's not a surprise to us, but it's just kind of mind-blowing the fact that how that plays a direct role in performance, we know that, but just their life is really crazy. Because like you said, like menstrual cycle, I had a girl who it was normal for her not to have a menstrual for so long
Mm,
until I made it very apparent that no, that's not normal. So, um, usually what we do disrupts their normal, and they either really don't like it or because it requires change and
mm,
it requires sacrifice. Any type of change requires sacrifice. So you can really see the type of person that they are if they kind of buck up against that because it's uncomfortable, or if they're like, all right, well, how do I change it? So, yeah.
yeah. With in terms of like your nutrition side of what you do, how how do you have those conversations with like the athletes, and then because the ages vary so much, how do you have that conversation with their parents as well?
Um, if I'm in a group, because I do have teams, I can be very gold and I can be very orange. I guess gold is like really like strategic and detailed and planned, and then gold is like kind of like everywhere. But when it comes to my groups, I really spend some time on like a handout, and I'll make it
Mm,
super digestible for the novice eyes and the novice brain, and just telling them, giving them examples of like what an athlete lunch, breakfast, snack, that kind of thing. And I made like a brochure that has like a day's timeline, and then it tells them kind of like little blurbs of what they
mm,
could or should be getting in. I'm really big on education with the nutrition piece. And really what seems to get them is I'm like, what I do in here and what you do in here, we're not building muscle. I'm actually breaking you down. So then it leads into what you do for the 18 other hours that you may be awake, or 14 hours, I don't know. That prepares you for either building or continuous breakdown. So I make it really simple, but I give them all the autonomy. Like it is
mm,
really, and it's a lot of responsibility. So I'm like, what you put in your mouth is free. Obviously for them because their parents pay for it. Free for
mm,
you. And picking up water and drinking it, that's free. But what does that require? It requires discipline. It requires you doing it. So I'm sorry if you're not responsible enough to pick up water and drink it. So I really put the stress that it can be very easy, but it requires more of your
mm,
diligence. And then as far as like with the girls, um, we do, I'll talk to them either during their training or um, with a phone call with their parents about like what I always start with, what do you eat? What do you drink? Tell me, no holds bar, tell me exactly what you do, whether it's monsters 3 days a week or no breakfast, and they'll go through it really easy. And I'm like, here's your first, and I give them assignments. I give them weekly assignments. Here's your
mm,
assignment. Take one 12-ounce bottle and make it three per day. we'll start there. And it's those small, steady changes that really start to build. Let's have eggs for breakfast. And then if they're like, I'm vegan, well, you know what? I'm dairy free, so I'll give you some things to
Mm.
get. And vegan's not dairy free for those who are vegan. I know that, but but
You're
yeah,
going after the whole community.
yeah. No, no, no. I no. So, I will do research for them and I will give them options. Very simple, very plain. It's not like you only eat broccoli. You only no. It's like here are some options. Let's start there. So yeah. And it
Yeah.
seems to be
No,
working.
yeah, I mean, like, I wish I had that educational piece, like, when I was sort of growing up in SSC. I started when I was 13, and all we essentially had is, like, we had a night, like, event where we ate, bolognese, and that was it. Like,
Ah,
and they just spoke about, like, you need to have your carbs, you need to have your
carb load.
proteins. Yeah, and, like, and then to me, in my head, I was like, pasta's good, which it is. Spaghetti's
Yes.
amazing,
Yes.
and it does really good. You need those carbs.
Yes.
But, like, I also lived off spaghetti, just like
Mm,
spaghetti, just plain spaghetti. I was like, and I
that's
grew up
it.
on that, and I was like, that's good.
It's like the US bodybuilder, rice, chicken, broccoli, that type of
Mm,
thing. Yeah. Yeah, I really love the nutrition piece to it. I think because I had my own journey with nutrition and just health things in general, made me really dive into research. And I'm not an RD, and I make that very plain. I say give you
mm.
I cannot
What
speak to
really is
eating
advice?
disorders. I can't give you eating disorder advice. I can scope of practice is huge for me. I can lose my job. So I'm like I can refer you to an RD. If there's any inclination that there might be an eating disorder, then I always
Mm.
refer out.
Yeah, and I think that honesty is always key as well. Like,
Mhm.
I've you've probably had the same, but, like, parents and athletes come me like, "What should I eat?" I was like, "Look, I can give you advice, like some solid advice, but
Yeah.
I can't tell you what you can and can't eat. Like,
Yeah.
that's outside of my thing." It's the same as, like, I always have this discussion with PTs where it's like, where is the line between what you do and what I do? Because
Oh
it can
yeah,
be
I
very
work with
fine,
PTs.
like, that line can be very fine, but, like, when is it yours or my turn to take over?
Yeah, I've talked to my PTs about that, and they usually tell me is that if an injury becomes a hindrance in training, like if you have to
Mm,
completely alter what you're doing and you are starting to regress, they need to be referred out. And I let the athletes know they have athletic trainers at school. So I'm like, you know what? If you don't want to see our athletic trainer because you're afraid you're going to get benched, then go ahead and go see a PT. But I was like, either way, what we're doing here is not going to give you is going to do you a
mm,
disservice. If they're a lower body injury, I'm like, we could probably proceed with upper body, but until you get that figured out, we need to yeah, we need to figure it out. So yeah.
yeah, what's their advice for the other way around? Like, they've been injured, they're with them, like, when is it then our turn to take over from that?
Typically what happens with what they do and what I do is we do have a bridge program, so it's where they are
Mm,
finished with PT visits. They educate the parent on, they have met the requirements, you have met your sessions, let's go ahead and shift you over to Coach Caroline, and we will educate her on what we've done so far. And that's where like camaraderie and just being one unit versus we do our thing, then we release them, and you
mm,
have no idea what we've done. So I'm really big on just being one unit, and it's not I'm volleying for your position, so you don't get my people, and yeah. So it's not
yeah,
competition. We are like one brain, and it's like I understand that you do what I can't, and you do what I can't, or I do what you can't. So um, when they release them to me, I know what they've done. They're open for communication as far as like, okay, hey, they're only loading unilaterally or bilaterally. So just communication is huge with that.
yeah. I like I always use this as an example, but, like, the UFCPI is the perfect accumulation of that. Like they have athletes from all over the world, speak all languages, and their system is so tight, like referring to each other, that like it works and it works well. Like
Mhm.
I've had S&C, I've had PT, and I've had nutrition on the podcast, and it's like they're so symbiotic with how they deal with things. Like as soon as like there's this like indication that this might be a little bit of a problem, or a question gets asked that is actually something to do with another aspect of the team, they're like, go speak to Olivia, go speak to
Yeah.
Becky. Like they've all got that figured out to the point that they just like self-refer to each other, and it's actually really nice to see that we're able to talk with each other.
Yeah, and it's crazy because I think gatekeeping has been a big term that's been
Mhm.
used, and,
Oh, I
to
hate
be
gatekeeping with a
yeah,
passion.
yeah.
Oh, I
So
hate
it's
it.
like I was sitting with, an NBA strength coach when we were at a dinner, and I was like, "How does that work?" Because you see on Instagram, you see that this star player goes with independent trainer over here in the off season. I said, "When they come back, do you know what they've done?" And he said, "That's where it can get a little sticky. Some do, some are like, figure it out." And I'm like, to me, that's where, either an insecurity lies where you're afraid that they're going to take your position and your people. But like we say when we're trying to encourage one another, there's only one you. There's only one
Mhm,
Manny. There can never be another Manny. What you do, how you do it is very specific and key to what you have been designed for. So it would be a disservice to our athletes to be able to hand them off to someone else and say, we did good stuff this summer. That's all you need to know. No, it's like, here's my book. Like, this is
mhm,
where I am taking this person who I put my sweat and tears and all my time in, and I am handing them over because now they are in season. This is what we did. So then they can either come back to you and say, hey, I see you did this, or they're kind of offloading on this. What do you think? Versus here's my wall and there's a divide. It needs to be open. And when I was doing hair, there was this hairdresser, hairstylist who did Jennifer Lopez's hair and Kim Kardashian's hair and all of this. And um, she would give out their formula. Like she
mm,
would say, "This is what we use for JLo." Formula meaning hair color. So, so like
okay.
the mixture for like her roots, her
I
highlights,
thought
she
like
would give it all
formula
out.
as in like the way she did
Her
it.
how she d
Okay, that
well,
makes sense.
basically, yes. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. So she gave out her secret sauce, and people were like, why do you do that?" Not saying we need to, like, give everything out for free because there's value in what we do, and we have to put a price on ourselves, but she said, "No one can do what I do. No one can speak to her the way that I speak to her. So if you have her formula, do you think you're gonna take someone from my chair, even if it's half price? Mm-mm,
Mhm.
because we will pay for what we deem valuable." So yeah,
So
it was
I was
very
actually
fun.
about to say something similar. When I
Uh-huh.
was at UW, Coach Creamer, he he's a phenomenal sports science practitioner, and like he's S&C like solid as well. But he's also a black belt in judo.
Ah.
So he does a lot of hand fighting with the American football athletes in the program, which
Mhm.
like it's phenomenal, and he posts about it all the time.
Mhm.
And like I was watching him, like I asked to say on one of his sessions and just see like how he does it, how he interacts with it, like everything that goes on. And that like at the end, I was like, you post so much about it. Like, are you not scared that people take it and run with it and like do what you're doing? And they were like, no, not really, because they're never going to do it. They're never going to be as good as I am or at doing it,
Yes.
or they're never going to do it the way that I do it. And that to me, I was like, oh wow. So like, there's this coach that's like a D1 American football program. He's just like putting all this information out for everyone to see and do, and he doesn't care because like he knows his value is with the way that he applies it, the knowledge that he
Yes.
has with it, the experience that he has with it. So he's like he's comfortable enough to like share, not be scared about it. And like I've never been one for gatekeeping. Like if I've got some information that you're looking for, I'm going to give you. Like I don't care. Like
Yeah.
I think that this industry only grows if we speak to each other.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, because that's how we've all learned is just by
Yeah.
other
Like
people.
you've had mentors, I've had mentors. Like our programs are pretty much a spin copy of them, just with a
Yeah.
couple twists that we've learned along the way that works for
Yes.
us, right? So it's not like we're original in the sense that everything we do is uniquely something that we've came up with. We've
Right.
stolen from people.
Mhm.
So like they were nice enough to give us that. So why can't I teach you or you teach me the way that you've become successful at this specific area that I am lacking of?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think that as we as we grow in this industry and as a lot of us that are like ourselves um grow in it and be able to kind of like so we have our network or our circle that have influenced us, then when we become mentors to people, I feel like it'll shift. That will
Hmm.
be the changing tide because we have a different mindset than, people who do gatekeep. And then hopefully that will kind of flush out, the gatekeeping really isn't a good thing in our industry.
I did a conference in Italy, and obviously, like I don't care for gatekeeping at all. And gatekeeping is a very big thing in Italy from strength coaches.
Oh, really?
So like when I came, yeah, oh yeah. And so like when I went across, and they were asking me questions, and I was just like, it was like they were, and Coach Mac has this expression, and I love it. It's like when you're in his program, you're drinking water from a fire hose. Like
Oh,
it's just coming at you. Like
yeah.
you're just getting everything all at once. So like they asked me a question, and I just like offloaded everything and every consideration that I put towards it, and they were like, "Okay," and like they would ask questions. I was like, "I'll actually send you my Excel file for that. I'll send you this PDF for it," and they were like, "Why do you give all this away? Like why?" I was like, "Because that's how this industry grows. Like all the coaches have learned it from somewhere. So
Right.
why am I going to like gatekeep information that's not even mine?" I've just made it my own, but I'm willing to give that away too.
Yes, and it's like and it's having that appreciation for those who do give out free information when things could easily be put a price on. And I
Mm,
am for people putting a price on a lump sum of knowledge that they have poured a lot of time and their own money in. So it's like you're gonna have people who expect free, and then when they get free, they are not thankful for it, and that's just a
mm,
heart thing. You really can't do much about that. But, I am thankful for those who do give just a vast amount of free information, free webinars, free all this stuff. Um, and then I'm always, my sole purpose is I never want to be a leech. I always want to
mm,
have this like constant flow of water where you're pouring into me. How can I pour into you? You're probably 20 years deeper in experience than me, but I do carry things that would be beneficial. How can I serve you? That's always my thing. So for like people who let me come and shadow, I'm always like, I'll come and I'll clean, or I'll come and
mm,
I'll set boxes up. So even if it's not information that we're sharing, I will share how I can, what I do best, and I serve. I'll serve
mhm,
all the days of my life. So that's kind of the mentality that we as people should have, is like I don't want to just be a leech to you. I want to be able to return because it's my
mhm.
heart to do that. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
You've just you've touched on a point that it was one of the best slaps, metaphoric slaps that I've ever had. And when I was first starting my education on this industry, my lecturer turned around to me, like to the whole group, and was like, "Gym instructors or people that work in gyms, we're glorified cleaners
Mm.
in a sense that we have all these qualifications. By the end of the day, we're still putting out the bins, we're still cleaning the
Yeah.
floors, we're still cleaning the
Yes.
dumbbells, we're
Yeah.
still wiping down mirrors, we're still wiping down bars. Like we have to clean. Like our
Mhm.
space is the way it is because we clean it. We
Yeah.
not all programs have cleaners,
Right. Yeah, and
and
it keeps
that's
everybody humble.
oh yeah. Like at the end of the day, when you've used like it's a big chalk day and everyone's wearing
Oh.
chalk, and like you have to wipe all that down, and just like
Uh-huh.
I'm hiding the chalk from now on.
Yeah, we're not using chalk. Everyone's getting grips or
Just
calluses that rip. Yeah. Oh, that's
like
hilarious. Yeah.
that aspect of like him just being like, yes, you can have all these qualifications, but at the end of the day, you're still going to clean the floor. Like,
Mhm.
don't don't think that now because you've spent all this money, all this time and education, that everything's going to come easier and you have the best life now. Like, you're still going to clean.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. It's like if you continued to remind yourself that I'm not going to ever arrive, it'll keep
Hmm.
you thankful for where you're at and thankful for where you've been, and then keep striving for, re-educating yourself, reaching out, having a good network, that kind of stuff. So yeah, we will never not clean. It's just
Hmm.
it's
Like, it's
and
gone to the
serve.
point where like, so I don't know why, but I've got like, I love sweeping, like sweeping the
Oh,
floors.
you like sweeping?
Yeah, like even if there's a Hoover, I will sweep, and then
Like
I'll pick up.
sweeping with a broom,
Yeah, yeah,
or
yeah,
like
yeah,
vacuuming is what I'm thinking of.
yeah. No, like sweeping with a brush.
I can do that. It's
So
vacuuming
like,
that I don't like.
see, like to me, like I don't know, there's it's therapeutic for me. Like I can
Okay.
think about everything. Like if I'm sweeping, like brushing the floor, like I've got time to think about the session and
You
everything that
zone
happened.
out.
Yeah, like I'll crank
Yes.
music up and I'll just be like in it.
Mhm.
So like, even if there's a Hoover, I will pick the brush every single time.
Yeah,
It
me
takes
too, because
twice
I
as
don't
long, and
like
it's
vacuuming.
yeah.
Well, I feel like you can get in the nooks and crannies with a broom too.
That's my point. That's my point.
Yes.
Like, especially like these mats where you've got like the little grooves in between, like you can
Yeah.
really get in them.
Yeah,
We're
it's
talking. It's a
satisfying.
cleaning podcast now. Top 10 ways to clean your floors
Yes. Pick the broom. Pick the broom.
every time. But like, it's just a good way to like obviously stay humble, and it's just like, even if I'm going to someone's gym that I've never been before, but we know each other, like, I'm like, look, you've let me use this gym for free. Let me clean, let me tidy, let me put something
Yes.
into what you're doing. So like, it also takes a job out of your day. Like, I
Mhm.
like to think of that way as well. As like, they've done this for me. All I can do at this point is like take one job away from them.
Yes, it's like, how can I lighten your load or just show some gratitude? And typically, it's the stuff that we will hate to do. And not hate
Mhm.
is a strong word, but we really, it's just like at the end of a
It's
long
menial.
day, it's like, it's a nuisance. It's like, oh, I have to do that, stack boxes, make sure that there's no turf turds everywhere. I call them turf turds. It's the little beads in the turf.
Well,
Yeah.
I got
Yeah.
it.
So, yeah. Or scrub the toilets. Like,
Yep.
when I interned, my senior year of college, I interned, and the bathroom I cleaned, like it was at the beginning of the day, it's clean. End of the day, I'm like, you guys don't even like, do you not even use toilet paper or something? But I had that thing clean. I mean, clean, clean, clean. And that was like something that I was obviously, wherever you intern, you want to do your best
Mm,
to show, like, you should want me, like, you should
mhm.
really, like, put a job application for the amount of work and the passion that you have. Um, so that's what my goal was just I cleaned that bathroom so good, and I
Mhm.
just scrubbed that toilet. So yeah, it's the small
I
things that add up.
100%. I also think there's a mentality behind effective coaches. And it's exactly that. It's like you're going to give me the most boring task, but I'm going to do it so well that you give me another job so I can put the same effort in, so then I can get another job that I'm going to put in
Yes.
the same effort in. And by the end, you're leading the program.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
Like
if you can start from the bottom and work your way up, I feel like that is the most rewarding thing.
when I was at UW, and I've mentioned this on the podcast quite a lot, I was like, I've got however long this internship is to let them know who I am. Like I'm from the
Mhm.
UK, like in American football, like I don't really belong there. But I'm going to work my ass off to make sure that by the end of the program, like they know who I am. I still
Yeah.
speak to them today, and like
I love
me
that.
and Coach Max to like message each other, to like phone each other. Like we've gone to a point in this internship where like now it's a working relationship. Like we bounce things. Like I bounce a lot of out of him, and he gives me these ideas, and I have to like figure them out, and I love it. Like that's what mentorship is as well. But like
Yeah.
I made sure that every day I went around every department and asked, "Is there anything I can do for you today? Like, how can I make your job easier today?" And like
Yes.
some days it was just like picking up bottles and putting them in the water room for the PTs to fill, like making sure that they were in that cupboard or they were in the gym or like I saw in a lot of the meetings with Ali as well, like the nutritionist, and just like saw how she ran her nutrition portion of the program. Like that helps me become a better coach. Like if I know all the considerations to nutrition, like if I can pick the PT's brain about like I was really into contrast at that point. So like I was like, what's your thoughts on contrast? And like they ran me down like what their thoughts on. We spoke about Love Island. Like I don't really watch much TV, but like
Yeah.
we spoke about anything and everything. It gave you that relationship between departments as well.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, if you can have that camaraderie or that like we had talked about just being a brain, and even as an intern, by that time they don't see you as an intern, they see you as just family, like one of the team. Um and I feel like as you do that, and it becomes like, if you're going to get to that point and do that in your internship, your heart better be that's just me, versus,
Mm,
this is a facade, and once I hit that level, I won't have to anymore. That's where I think, like, either the young prideful coach is, and they think like they don't know the ins and outs very much, to where they think, if I hit that once I hit that position, I don't have to worry about all this anymore. No, it'll you're always going to do that.
mm.
So yeah, for sure.
Like I remember the conversation we were having before we cut out. It was I can't remember what podcast it was, but we were talking about like hiring a cleaner and the cleaner wanting to only clean the windows, and they do the windows really well, but they neglect everything else. And it's
Mhm.
like it's exactly what you're saying. Is like if you're in this role and you expect to just do one thing and one thing the whole time, like, and you neglect, say, like clean the floors or not speaking to every member of the team, you're like you're missing this whole part that is actually fundamental for everyone to work as a unit.
Yes, absolutely. It's it's going above and beyond. And in this role, whatever role in the strength conditioning industry, that that almost is like a requirement. Just an innate, intrinsic requirement of going above and beyond. Because if you get in this industry because you like to work out, you're going to be very, very disappointed,
Mm,
because it's people, and people are not consistent, and people can disappoint you, and people can be amazing, but um to be able to understand that this field is a servant's position. This field is not how much money I can make, and what head coaching position I can get, so I can put it on my Instagram bio and
mm,
say XYZ school, and put that blasted on Instagram. Because um as much as I love this position, I am so transparent about the ins and outs of, it's not the easiest, but because I love to do it,
mm,
and because my reward is not necessarily like the affection that my people can give me, or the university can give me. It's everything that I have inside. Just, I yearn to just serve people, and to be able to say that this position requires that, is like, all right, you gotta die a lot of times.
Mhm. I always recommend people start or at least have some general pop experience.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
you
I mean,
learn real quick.
I got a 65-year-old woman right now. She said, "You're gonna
Nice.
have me till I'm 90 or till I die." I'm like, "Oh, okay." But yeah, I mean, you I feel like being able to have such a variety of people just refines you as a coach. It makes you more empathetic. It makes you more bold. It makes you more confident. It can make you very insecure. But
Mhm.
then, if you have the mindset of I'm gonna find a reason for this, or I'm gonna find a way to help you in this. So yeah, and some people don't
100%.
have Gen Pop their whole life, and and they're doing just fine, which is completely cool. But I think for character development and a young coach, it's key.
100%. Like I started in Gen Pop and like public gyms, and it's like you get so many different people all at once, and you're having to take
Mhm.
these classes where they're like, "I can't do this because of this." I'm like, "Okay, well, let's pivot. What else can we
Yeah.
do?" And like,
Yeah.
I always people don't love being thrown in the deep end in things. Like I was thrown into a spin class my first shift. Like that's A to B real quick, but
Yes.
nothing gave me more confidence as a coach than being able to speak like so I'm dyslexic and a big thing is like public speaking was horrendously hard for me. Couldn't do it. Like my first shift, I got thrown into a spin class, and I had to
Teaching a
speak.
spin class?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like on the bike, teaching a spin class. My first
Yes.
shift,
And
and
climb
I
that
was like,
mountain.
yeah, exactly that. So like, I was like, well, I have to. Like I'm here, I'm in front of people. There's people in front of me. I
Uh-huh.
have to do it. So from then on, I was just like, I don't know what it was, but something switched, and I was able to like public speak. Like now, I speak in front of people, and it's no hassle for
That's
me. Like I'll
awesome.
lead people, and I'm fine. Like it's never been a problem since.
That's awesome.
So it's like it also helps you like get your own voice. Like when you
Yeah.
get thrown in these deep end situations, and it's like a sink or swim situation, you're just like, well, I can't sink, so let's fucking go
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah. Like, there's no other way to go but maybe up because I feel real down. Oh, that's great. I love that.
So like I've always been thrown in these deep end situations, and I've just been like, "Well, I've got to figure it out. Let's go."
Mhm. Yeah, and if you don't, then they're just gonna stare at you, and they're gonna be like, "All right, class
the,
is over."
the thing that's helped me the most, although, is like, what's the worst that's going to happen,
Mhm.
right? As I get no, as I get looked at, is that really that big of an issue? Like,
Right.
just yeah, just go for it.
Or you just thrive and you're like, "Oh, wow." And like you said, that was a pivoting moment for you.
Mhm.
So, I mean, you really never know what good can come out of it. So
100%.
just
It's like it's
swing for
also
the
like
fence.
I understand the situation exactly. It's like I've had this phrase since one of my coaches said it to me. I think I was like 15, 16 at this point. We were in trials for the pathway team, and he was like, "Shy boys don't get sweets." And like, if you want something, it kind of accumulates to like, if you want something, you have to go out and get it, because no
Yeah.
one's going to give you it. You have to chase it, and you have to want it, and you have to go and take it. So
Yes.
for me, like that phrase is always stuck in my head, like every single time. Like something comes across my desk, and I'm like, "Oh, this is challenging. Oh, this is a little bit out of my comfort zone." But shy boys don't get sweets, so we're going to fucking go
Shy
for
boys
it.
don't get sweets. We need to make
Yeah.
a sticker or a t-shirt.
To be fair, I've wanted to make a T-shirt,
You
and it's
should.
like the
I got
idea
a
is in my head.
Cricut.
For sorry.
I got a Cricut at home where it like cuts out the vinyl and the stuff. I make shirts. I need
Oh,
to make one for you.
oh, that would be sick.
Yeah.
Like I've got like an idea on how I want it to look, so I just
We'll
need
have
to
to
figure that out.
collaborate. We'll get
Yeah, that would be
it.
sick. But like yeah, like that is always something that's in my head. It's like I need to always, and it's that thing of like what's the next uncomfortable thing that I can get up to.
Yeah. And
Like
like
this
for
industry is
me,
like you can't control the uncontrollables, and you have to thrive on the uncomfortableness.
yeah, absolutely. Because the biggest thing that I've learned is like, and all my mentors have said, you've got to get uncomfortable in certain things that I would share with them. They're like, you got to grow, and in order to grow, more than likely you have to make a change. That's usually how it happens. Is something has to change, environment has to change, what you intake has to change in order for you to grow. So, um, and that's, I think I was on, yeah, it was the last one. I was just on, I would say a video cast podcast, but I was saying they asked me something inspirational, and I was like, I mean, this isn't really the most inspirational thing, but I'm like, you've got to be uncomfortable, and it doesn't mean you're going to be uncomfortable all the time, but it is a requirement for you
Mhm.
to be able to grow in this is you have to be uncomfortable. Whether it's talking to people, you're going to be very uncomfortable. Whether it's
Mhm.
imposter syndrome can be big for new coaches and probably old coaches too,
I
or
get it all the
seasoned
time.
coaches. Yeah, I mean
I get
that
it all
for
the time.
me, I can talk to anybody. I can talk to anybody. But my biggest thing is I always felt like if you start talking about like um different methodologies and like that kind of thing, I am like, I always felt like, maybe I wouldn't be a good coach, but it's not just that. So you learn, you grow, but you have to put yourself into really um un unfavorable
Mhm.
positions. Like when we went to the national conference for the National High School Strength and Conditioning Association. It was my first time. I go by myself everywhere, everywhere, every conference, everything. Michelle Toy, we go to like speed conferences and stuff together, but I had went by myself, like actually there, and we had a meet and greet, and everybody was with people. Everyone had like their assistant or whatever. I don't have an assistant. I am just me. So I'm over there. Hi, my name's Caroline. I'm from Ohio. Hi, my name's Caroline. And so I ended up getting like I won a raffle for half off my masters. So I go
Oh,
up and I'm
sick.
high fiving people because I don't really care. High fiving people. I get up there and um, they're like they're like, hold up, and the microphone. They're like, who has met Caroline? A bunch of hands raised, and it was like my second time there, first time, and they just kind of said, and it's not to toot my own horn or anything like that, but it's just like they said, you know, she went around and introduced herself
Mhm.
to everybody. And it's not like, and then they said, like, for new coaches, take from this is just do it. Just do it. And it wasn't that comfortable for me. I mean, I love people, people
Mhm.
are my thing. But to go up to people who are probably having mid conversation
Mhm.
that have had, rapport with each other and just have me, hi, I'm Caroline. I'm from Ohio. And they're like, hi. And then I just leave. Bye. So, yeah,
No,
getting
100%.
uncomfortable is it.
No, like, yeah, you have to become comfortable being uncomfortable, and I think that's where the growth is. Like, you
Yeah.
can't just be comfortable. Like, so you kind of brought up methodologies, and I'm a principle based because
Yeah.
Coach Mark is a principle based guy, and that's kind of like that made sense for me because like methodologies are great for that coach,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like they created it, that works in their program because they created that program. But principle base essentially tells you to like you you have people that you follow and programs that you follow, and you can take something from all the programs and you can
Mm-hmm.
adapt it to what works for you and your program. So being principle based is like, I hate to use this word, but it's the easiest way to talk about it. Like you steal from different programs what you like best, and
Yeah.
then that accumulates to build the program that you have for your athletes because that's what works for your population.
Yes.
So like being able to do this and just sort of like talk about methodologies for me, I'm not like, oh, French contrast, oh, triphasic, oh, 5-3-1, or
Mm-hmm.
you juggernaut, or bloody West Side Barbell. Like there's all these great methodologies that you can take something from like every single one of them. Like for me, I love talking West Side Barbell because of the amount of changing of equipment and change of ways of programming things. I
Yeah.
like I like triphasic because I personally love to work isometrics and eccentrics, and obviously
Yes. And
concentrics are
tempo and
exactly
yeah.
like I'm kind of getting into the system, um, because Coach Fink he he kind of blew my mind. It was the simplest thing ever, and he blew my mind with it. It's like in athletes, you kind of want them to be balanced. What
Mhm.
he means by that is like the push and pulls have to add up. Like if I'm doing 10 pushes, I need to do 10 pulls. Now
Okay.
it kind of changes when you're doing like strength on one side, hypertrophy on one, but you can still balance it out. Like if you're doing 5 reps push, 10 reps pull, kind of balance out in the hypertrophy strength accumulation, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So like it was the simplest thing. Obviously, you want your athletes to be equal, like balanced. So they need to push as much as they pull. Makes sense.
Mhm.
Simple. Like he was like, read this book, and it was the system. So like I'm kind of trying to make my way through it. Also, and I got this because he was on the podcast, and I spent a long time speaking with him.
Uh-huh.
I just have a whole bookshelf of books.
Love it.
Developed athlete.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
Tom Newman was on the podcast, and he co-wrote this as well. So it was like he's essentially like creating this universal language on how we as coaches can communicate with our athletes and each other. And like
Okay.
that's sick to me because like in a world where you might call it jerk, I might call it push press.
Mhm.
Right? It's the same lift, but we
Yes.
call it different things.
Yeah, my
Right?
athletes will be like, why are you having so many different names for this? Isn't it yesterday was a halo lateral walk. Today it's a banded sideways walk."
Exactly. Like there's so many different names for different things that we kind of get stuck on that and we don't move
Mhm.
past the names. And we're like, oh,
Yeah.
that's not that exercise. This is this exercise. And we don't move on to actually the program of it.
Mhm.
So it's having that thing where we're always learning and sort of accumulating all these like key pieces of puzzles to formulate our program and our best way of delivering it.
Yeah. And I think that I'm going to have to look into that book cuz that's pretty cool.
Which one? The
The
development
developing the
develop
athlete.
yeah. I'll send you a
Yeah.
link.
Okay, yes.
Like it's awesome. And yeah, it's just like again, it's just different ways of skinning the cat.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's the same I think with like especially like speed work too. Now that there's a lot more I don't know if they want to call themselves speed coaches, but their bread and butter is,
Yeah,
teaching speed and just the intricacies of it. I feel like that has been a big kind of boom that's been happening in our field as well. Just taking what we've learned from, our basic S&C, which really doesn't cover a lot of speed work.
mhm,
And then you have like Spellman, you have artists, you have all of these different other companies that are now taking that information and really just making it digestible for those who are new to it. And then taking, obviously those who are seasoned, they can follow them in kind of the way they teach things. So I think that's pretty neat.
100%. What's your PR song?
Oh, my PR song? Oh, what
PR.
I Oh, it really just depends.
Are you a mood type coach, or like you have to be in certain moods to listen to some like certain music?
I typically always I love listening to like R&B and hip hop. Um I love that genre. And I don't listen to like mainstream music like Aaron Cole and Miles Minnick, they're Christian artists. So they put out incredible beats, and obviously the message is what my soul loves. So um I listen to that all the time. And then sometimes I'll listen to some worship music while I lift. I'm not an extrinsic motivated person.
Mhm.
I am very intrinsically motivated. So music all obviously has like it plays a role in like performance, but for me, I do it because I just do it. So,
Yeah.
but as far as like the music I like to listen to when I lift, it's that. So I don't know if I have like a PR song. It
Mm.
just has to move really well.
I get you.
Yeah.
Um, on that, I love listening to Kurt Franklin. He is someone that
Oh,
I've listened to
Kirk.
so
He got
much.
some moves that I'm like, "Oh, dang, Kirk." But
100%.
yeah, he's been a I don't know even what they call it, like a waymaker in that industry, and he's
Yeah.
done some really
To be
incredible
fair, like
things.
I found Kirk Franklin in like 2015, maybe
Mhm.
16, which I was like, yeah, like this is a good bop.
Yeah. Aaron Cole, Miles Minnick are
I'll
2
need to
that
listen to
are
those.
on repeat for me.
Nice. I'll need to
Yeah.
listen to those. Um, do you have a conditioning playlist,
Like,
or is it much
a
the
con
same
is this for me or for the athletes?
for you personally?
For me, it's about the same.
As the same.
Yeah, it's about the
I get you.
same. Yeah, I'll usually go to
Um,
Spotify and go to the artist and do their radio or something.
see, I've got a love-hate relationship with the radio on certain
Ah,
artists.
and
Because
a
like
lot of them,
sometimes
like,
like
repeat.
yeah, yeah. And not just that, sometimes it just takes you somewhere like completely random and just like they're related. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
What would be your advice for new strength coaches or coaches wanting to come into this industry?
I'm gonna try to say something different this time around. I would say reach out.
Mm,
I feel like a lot of strength coaches feel like because they're new or because someone is verified on Instagram or whatever, um, reach out. Don't be afraid of striking up conversation and don't feel like you have to have the most intelligent answer. And don't downplay yourself. Like you are educated and most of the time us strength coaches like we don't talk about unless it's like, hey, what do you think of GPP, what do you think of like most of the time we don't sit and talk about that stuff unless it is like a, hey, can we get on conversation, I really want to run German volume by you, A, B, and C.
mhm.
But for the new strength coach, reach out. If you get strength coaches that respond, be thankful. Um, and let's see here.
That's actually one of the biggest things I learned from American coaches and athletes. Is like this is going to sound so weird, but like be appreciative of people's time. Like
Yes.
specifically saying I appreciate you. Like
Mm-hmm.
I before I went across that, like I never said that because it's not like something that you can say thank you for people's time, but like saying I appreciate you for this, this, and this,
Yeah.
like just sets a different tone. Like when I first got got this said to me, I was like, "Huh, that actually makes me feel really good."
Yeah, it's just most of the time it's not it is for that person, but it does something to you, especially
Hmm.
as a young strength coach. Um, and I don't want to sound like super old or anything like this, but growing up in what you whoever's listening or what they are growing up in. It's very instantaneous gratification. It's very me, me, me. It's very feeling,
Hmm.
feeling. Everything feels good. This is not necessarily going to feel good, but if you actually like have the intentional conversation with someone and reach out and they respond with small words or with a long paragraph or with an email, you acknowledging the fact that they did something for
Hmm.
you and saying, I appreciate that. It goes a long way for them and it goes a long way for you. So just being grateful in every step and every person that you have in your circle and in your space, because what's crazy is they know someone who knows somebody who eventually it'll get back around to you. And that's the beautiful thing about this industry is that um, the trees really grow
Hmm.
and then the roots go down deep, but we all are so intertwined together. It's a beautiful thing. So for the new strength coach, reach out and be thankful.
Yeah. No, I love that. And it's exactly what you're saying. Like sometimes like I'm reaching out to a coach to come on the podcast, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I've heard great things about your podcast. Let's hop on." And I'm just like, "Who from?" Like I'm always shocked that people listen and like know about the
Yeah,
podcast. I'm just
you
like,
think that you're in this, like, little bubble of your own. No, it's getting out there, friend.
see, but that's the thing is like I still see myself as like a small guy from my hometown. That I'm just like sometimes like when I'm speaking to like Mike Boyle or Thomas Newman or Coach Matt
Uh-huh.
comes on, I'm just like I should not be talking to you guys. Like,
But it keeps you humble, but yeah,
yeah,
it's a
no, I
beautiful
still
thing.
find it like we were talking about imposter syndrome before. Like
Oh,
this is
yeah.
where I get it. This is where I get to big time.
Oh, yeah, when I went to, what was it? The speed conference in Pittsburgh, at Pittsburgh University.
Mhm.
Sportsmith. I was like looking back and I was like, oh my gosh, I follow her on Instagram. Oh my gosh, I follow him. He is so knowledgeable, and I'm just sitting there like awestruck, and people are just like conversing and enjoying like time, and I'm just like, who am I? Am I even supposed to
That's the
be
thing as
here?
well. Like we're also like majority of us, not all, like a good portion of American coaches. They're so like up for a conversation and so bubbly that you're just like, huh, why was I so scared to reach out?
Yeah, most of the time, like at least for me, and especially because the space that I'm in, I don't have a staff. I have a coworker. He works with more of the older people. But and I talk to people who aren't in this field, but I was like, the reason why I love to talk to like yourself and other coaches is because you get it. And most of the time, it's a very, I don't want to say isolated position, but for me, it is fairly isolated. Um, I can talk to my friends and family and that stuff, but they just don't understand fully. So when you have someone who is in this field, we could talk for hours, and usually
Mhm,
we do. I mean, look at us. It's just because there's a new level of like appreciation for
mhm,
someone else who's going through that too. And to be able to be like at the drop of a hat, we don't really know each other, but we are friends because
mhm,
we have this one thing in common and we can shoot the breeze because this industry is not just strength conditioning. It is psychology, it is life, it is family, it
mhm.
is lack of time, and we can all just talk about that, and it's such a beautiful thing because that's why we are all so chatty, is because we got lots to talk about.
100%. Lack of time is one that's not dawned on anyone.
Yeah, yeah, so
Like
I love it.
I, yeah, like I'm a little bit different because like I have to like fit around some people's schedules, but like it does work. Like if you just like let's make this happen, and they give you a day and your time, and just like okay, let's like I'm across in the UK, so like my times are all screwed because
Yeah, we're
like
about 5 hours.
yeah, so like but like to me, I like it because it's like it's a learning opportunity for me, and it's again that appreciative thing. Like I appreciate you for even taking time out of your day to do it. So like I'm going to do as much as I can to fit around your schedule too. And it's like we can't speak like if there was no like time caps, we could spend like weeks talking about like a topic in this industry.
Yeah.
Like I had Ben on a couple weeks ago, and like we got done talking after like an hour and a half, and we looked at each other and we were like, we just scratched the surface.
Yeah,
Like we just
literally.
scratched the surface.
We just hit the intro.
Yeah, and it's like I think this is where like our industry is so unique in the sense like you can't talk everything through in an hour. Like I've been
Mm,
asked to make these shorter, like different ways I can make these shorter. Like for me, it's like you lose a lot of the conversational pieces that if I was to come into your office or we were to meet at a conference, that like having these strict set questions throughout the whole episode kind of isn't what we do, right?
right.
Because if I'm in your office or you're in mine, we'll go on tangents for no
Mhm.
reason, but we'll just
Yeah,
fucking go off. So yeah, I do like our industry.
I do too. It's great.
No, I appreciate you so much for coming on. It was a
Thank you
pleasure.
for
And
having me.
um,
It's always an
yeah,
honor.
thank you. It does help when people are willing to come on and just like give up their time as well.
Yeah, I'm thankful for it. And I know we had talked on the phone. People don't know this watching, but we talked on the phone for like an hour before this. And we're like, let's actually do this on a on
On
a
the
video. And I'm like,
podcast,
ah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So we'll have to do
This
it
is like
again. But yeah,
something that I love doing as well. Is like speaking off the podcast as well is great because like you can kind of get a feeling for like the type of coaching and the where they're at in their career or where they're at with their
yeah,
thoughts on the industry. And like not everything needs to be recorded. Like
right.
I'm pretty sure we
Yes.
spoke about things that again we technically can't speak about it on the on the podcast, but
Uh
like
huh.
it's also giving you that time to like, okay, I can actually speak about this because like we're not being recorded. Not
Yeah,
everything's
it's
going to
just
be analyzed.
friendship.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just colleagues.
Paloma Bowman also like had the best way of looking at relationships in this industry, and she was a D1 beach volleyball player. She still is. I don't know why I'm saying she was. Um, and her thing is like when you make these connections and friendships and industry like relationships, it's not just about like speaking to someone's like one time and that's it. Like for a true relationship and like a true connection to be like fostered and cared for, like
Mm-hmm.
touching points is really good and it's very important. Like if you see them come up for some reason, like if they post or if they put on a story and you so happen to catch it, like being like, yeah, you're fucking killing it, or let's talk about this further because I want to know a little bit more. Like
Yeah.
consistently talking and like appreciating each other for what you are doing. I That's one thing that I'm really getting into and I love doing. That like the podcast is getting a little bit out there more. Like it sounds weird to say and I hate talking about it, but it's like I'm in a position where like if I share something, I know people are going to watch it and people are going to follow that person. And that for me is like I love that.
That's awesome. Yeah. And it just shows what kind of person you are to be able to be like, you know, you love to see people succeed. That's a
Mm,
beautiful thing. Yeah. And like I'll be talking to some of my athletes and I'll say, "Yeah," and I'll just name someone who's very predominant on social media, and it could be a trainer, it could be an athlete, and they're like, "You talk to them?" And I'm like, "Yeah, they're a person. I'll talk to anybody. If you got a blue check, I don't care. I'll talk to you. If you got one follower and you're not freaky, you're not weird, then I'll talk to you." So yeah,
oh, I get some weird ass requests on my Instagram. And it's actually so like I'm just like, what is happening?
he said these are people crazy.
Hundred
Oh yeah,
percent.
I like it.
No, I appreciate you so much for coming on. Um,
Thank
if you want to
you.
give people your social media or anything that they can sort of message you on.
Yeah, my X and my Instagram is the same, and it's at C. Oh, you can see it at C underscore AROLINE underscore P. Who knows if that'll ever change, but there it is. Yeah.
No, I appreciate you so much. Peace.